After working double shifts to afford my brother-in-law's rehab, I came home to a family meeting. My wife sat there crying, and her parents said I was toxic and emotionally absent. Then my son looked me in the eye and said, "Mom deserves to be happy." That's when I noticed her luggage was already in the car. 1 year later, they all showed up at my job, begging for help. I let them talk. Then closed the door in their faces. I guess it started the night Craig got arrested. I was sitting at the kitchen table, paying bills, when Marcy's phone rang. It was Rhonda. She was screaming. Craig had wrapped his Honda Civic around a pole after blowing through a red light high as a kite. He wasn't hurt, somehow. But he had a pocket full of pills and a blood alcohol level that would kill most people. That night, Marcy cried harder than I'd ever seen. "He's going to die," she kept saying. "We have to do something." I didn't want to. I didn't even like Craig. But I was a husband. A father. I thought doing the right thing would matter. I thought if I showed up for them now, they'd remember. They'd be there for me if I ever needed them. So when Jim and Rhonda cornered me about paying for Craig's rehab, I said yes. I said yes even though it meant picking up extra shifts at the plant. I said yes even though it meant missing Evan's school play, his baseball tryouts, his life. I was gone before sunrise and came back long after dark. Marcy used to wait up for me. After a few weeks, she stopped. The house got cold. Quiet. I thought it was just stress. When I found myself eating alone night after night, I told myself it was temporary. When Evan stopped asking me to come to his games, I told myself it was for the greater good. When Marcy stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings, I told myself not to push. Craig finished his first 30 days at rehab. Then another 30. It cost more than I made in 6 months. But I kept going. One day, my manager pulled me aside. "You look like shit, Rick," he said. I just nodded and punched in. The night it all fell apart was a Tuesday. I remember because I had promised Evan I'd make it to his baseball game. I was gonna leave work early. But the line broke down. We spent 5 hours fixing it. By the time I got to the parking lot, the field lights were already out. I sat there in my truck for a long time, staring at the empty bleachers. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I saw the lights on in every room. Something was wrong. Inside, the air was heavy. The first thing I saw was Marcy sitting at the table, crying. Jim and Rhonda were next to her, faces tight and angry. Evan sat there too, arms crossed. Nobody said anything when I walked in. I set my lunchbox down on the counter. "Everything okay?" I asked. Jim stood up like he was the head of the damn household. "You're toxic, Rick," he said, real steady. "You're emotionally absent," Rhonda chimed in. Marcy didn't say a word. She just kept her head down, tears dripping onto the table. Then Evan. My boy. My own flesh and blood. He looked right at me and said, "Mom deserves to be happy." It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I couldn't even breathe. That's when I noticed her luggage stacked by the door. 2 big suitcases and a duffel bag. The car keys in her hand. She wasn't just leaving. She'd been planning this. Probably while I was killing myself on that factory floor. Probably while I was missing every important moment in our lives. Nobody stopped me when I walked back out the door. Nobody called after me. The only thing I heard was Rhonda's voice, low and mean, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I slept in my truck for 3 nights. Didn't have anywhere else to go. Finally got a room at the Budget Inn. $60 a night, peeling wallpaper, thin sheets that smelled like cigarettes. The divorce papers showed up at work a week later. Filed by Marcy. No warning. No conversation. Just a neat little packet with my name misspelled and a list of everything she was taking. Which was everything. The house. The furniture. Primary custody of Evan. I didn't even fight it. I didn't have the money for a lawyer. And honestly, I didn't have the fight left in me. Craig lasted about 6 weeks out of rehab before he got busted again. Same shit, different day. Meanwhile, I clawed my way back from nothing. Picked up jobs at the auto shop, learned the ropes. Started saving. Started sleeping through the night again. Not once did Marcy call to check on me. Not once did Evan. Birthdays? Nothing. Christmas? Nothing. Father's Day? Silence. The worst part was the dreams. I used to dream that Evan would call me, crying, telling me he wanted to come home. I'd wake up with my heart racing and my hands shaking. But the phone never rang. Fast forward almost exactly 1 year later. It was a Saturday. I was locking up the shop, keys jingling in my hand. The bell above the door jingled. I turned around. And there they were. Marcy. Jim. Rhonda. Craig. And Evan, standing a few feet behind them, hands stuffed in his hoodie pockets. They looked like hell. Rhonda's face was bloated, red from crying. Jim had a black eye. Craig looked like he hadn't bathed in a week. Marcy. God, Marcy looked like a ghost. I didn't say anything. I just stared at them. Marcy stepped forward, voice shaking. Rick, please. We need your help. Apparently, after Craig moved back in with Marcy, things went bad fast. Real fast. Cops came. Drugs found. Eviction notice nailed to the door. Jim and Rhonda lost their savings trying to bail Craig out. Now they were broke. Homeless. Nowhere to go. And they wanted my help. The man they threw away like trash. Marcy kept talking. She said Evan needed a stable home. She said she'd made mistakes. She said she was sorry. Rhonda sniffled and said, "We're family." Family. Funny word, that. I listened. I stood there and let them spill every desperate word. Then I walked over to the door. Pulled it open. And slammed it shut in their faces. Hard enough to rattle the windows. Through the glass, I saw them pounding on the door, yelling. I saw Marcy sobbing. I saw Evan turn away. But I didn't open it. Not this time. They made their choice. And so did I. I turned off the lights. And I never looked back. After I shut that door in their faces, it took me a long time to move again. I stood in the dark shop, hearing their voices muffled through the glass. At first it was yelling. Then begging. Then silence. When I finally looked outside again, they were gone. Or so I thought. About a week later, I noticed the same beat-up minivan parked across the street from my apartment complex. Every night. Same spot. Same van. One night, I got curious and walked by real slow on my way in. Saw Jim in the driver's seat, slumped over. Marcy in the passenger seat, crying into her hands. Craig nowhere in sight. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel anything. I went inside, locked my door, and put a chair under the knob for good measure. It wasn't over, though. Next morning, on my way to work, I found something stuck under my windshield wiper. A letter. Written in Evan's handwriting. It said, "Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I miss you. I don't want to be here anymore." That broke me. Ripped me open in ways I didn't know I could still feel. But I also knew what this was. It wasn't Evan reaching out on his own. It was Marcy and Jim putting him up to it. I could see their fingerprints all over it. The guilt trip. The bait. The same tactics they used a year ago when they begged me to save Craig. I crumpled the letter and threw it in the trash. If Evan wanted to talk to me, really talk, he knew where to find me. But I wasn't going to be their savior anymore. Not ever again. Things got weirder after that. A couple days later, I came home and found Marcy sitting outside my apartment building. On the curb. No shoes. No makeup. Just a hoodie and sweatpants, looking about 15 years older than she really was. She jumped up when she saw me. Ran over like a stray dog. Grabbed my arm. "Please, Rick. Please. We have nowhere to go. Craig's disappeared. Evan's scared. We can't stay in that van anymore. Please." Just one night. Her nails dug into my skin. I shook her off. Told her she needed to leave. Told her I was calling the police if she didn't. She dropped to her knees right there in the parking lot, wailing. Drawing attention from all my neighbors. I didn't care. I called the cops. They showed up, cuffed her for trespassing, and hauled her away. I didn't even watch them drive off. Next morning, there was another note under my windshield. No words this time. Just a drawing. A stick figure with a gun to its head. "Dad" written underneath. It made my hands shake. Not from fear, from rage. This wasn't about saving Evan anymore. This was about punishment. This was about them trying to drag me back into their hell because they couldn't stand that I had gotten out. I knew what I had to do. I went down to the county courthouse that afternoon and filed for a restraining order against Marcy, Jim, and Rhonda. I didn't include Evan. Even after everything, he was still my son. He was still just a kid. But the rest of them? They were done. Finished. The restraining order gave me some peace, for about 2 weeks. Then one afternoon, the shop phone rang. It was Evan. My heart almost stopped when I heard his voice. He sounded small. Broken. "Dad, can you come get me?" he said. They left me. They left me at a gas station. I swear I almost dropped the phone. I got the address out of him and tore across town like my truck had wings. Found him sitting on the curb outside a rundown gas station on the edge of town. Clutching a backpack and a crumpled bag of chips. When he saw me, he broke down crying. Real, chest-racking sobs that made my gut twist. I threw open the door and he ran into my arms. I hadn't held him like that in over a year. He felt smaller somehow, like life had worn him down already. I got him in the truck and we just sat there for a while. He kept saying, "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know. I didn't know." I told him it wasn't his fault. None of it was. Then he told me everything. How after the divorce, Craig had moved into the house. How he stole money from Evan's birthday cards. How he beat on Marcy when he was high. How Jim and Rhonda turned a blind eye to it all because Craig was family. And how Marcy finally snapped and tried to kick Craig out. But it was too late, CPS had already been called. The house got raided. They lost everything. They had been living out of the minivan for weeks, begging for money outside grocery stores, sleeping behind dumpsters. Evan said he got tired of it and started asking about me. Marcy told him I wouldn't help. Told him I didn't want him. But Evan didn't believe her. Not after seeing her let Craig back in again and again. Not after getting left behind like garbage at a gas station. He wanted out. He wanted me. I took him home. Fed him a real meal. Let him take a hot shower that lasted an hour. Watched him fall asleep on my couch, wrapped up in a real blanket, a real roof over his head. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Filed for emergency custody. Used every bit of evidence Evan had told me about, plus the police reports, the eviction notice, the restraining order. It wasn't even a fight. The judge signed off on it the same day. Evan was mine again. Legally. Fully. And Marcy couldn't do a damn thing about it. But it didn't end there. Not even close. About a month later, Marcy tried to fight it. Tried to show up at the courthouse with some half-assed lawyer funded by God knows who. She told the judge I had brainwashed Evan. That I was manipulative and unstable. I didn't even have to say a word. The court-appointed child advocate handed over a stack of CPS reports about her, Jim, Rhonda, and Craig. Photos of the trashed house. Reports from neighbors about screaming, drug use, police raids. The judge looked at her for about 3 seconds before slamming the gavel down. Case dismissed. She lost custody. Lost visitation. Lost everything. And when we walked out of that courtroom, Evan gripped my hand tight and said, "Let's go home, Dad." But the final twist, the one I didn't see coming, was Craig. He wasn't done with me yet. Craig didn't disappear quietly. About 2 months after I got full custody of Evan, the shop got broken into. Windows smashed. Tools gone. Office trashed. My truck keyed from front to back. Cops said it looked personal. Said whoever did it knew where to hurt me. I didn't have proof, but I didn't need it. I knew it was Craig. I didn't sleep much after that. Started carrying a bat with me everywhere. Started double-locking my doors. Checking windows twice before bed. Evan knew something was up. I tried to shield him from it, but kids aren't dumb. One night, I found him sleeping with the bat tucked under his bed. That about killed me inside. About a week later, it escalated. I was closing up the shop when I heard a noise behind me. Turned around, and there was Craig. He looked worse than ever. Sunken eyes. Track marks on his arms. Stumbling drunk or high or maybe both. He had a crowbar in his hand. "You ruined my life," he slurred. "You took everything from me." I didn't even flinch. I just stared him down. "You did that yourself, Craig," I said. "Now get the hell out of here." He swung the crowbar. Wild. Sloppy. I dodged it easy. Grabbed the bat leaning by the door. And for the first time in my life, I didn't hold back. I cracked him across the ribs so hard he dropped like a sack of bricks. Hit him again in the leg when he tried to crawl away. Then I called the cops and sat on the curb, waiting for them to show. Didn't say a word when they cuffed him. Didn't even look at him. He screamed at me the whole time. Said he was gonna kill me. Said he was gonna burn my life down. But I knew the truth, he was finished. He had nothing left. He was just noise now. After that, everything changed. Craig got locked up for assault and breaking and entering. Got 5 years minimum, thanks to priors. Good riddance. Jim and Rhonda disappeared, too. Word around town was they sold their house and moved in with some distant cousin up in Arkansas. Marcy? Last I heard, she was living out of a Motel 6, bouncing checks and burning bridges. I didn't hear her name again after that. As for Evan and me, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. I had a lot of nights where I woke up sweating, thinking I heard Craig banging at the door. Had a lot of mornings where Evan sat real quiet at the kitchen table, looking like he was carrying the weight of the world. But we were healing. Slowly. Steadily. He got back into baseball. I coached his team. We laughed again. It wasn't the life I thought I was fighting for back when I was killing myself with double shifts. It was better. It was real. I made mistakes. Big ones. I chose the wrong people to save. I let the wrong people into my heart. But I wasn't going to let that define the rest of my life. Or Evan's. We survived them. We survived it all. And we didn't just survive, we won.